Okay, hello. I'm Eric Deloach. I'm a book author and host of my new show, Black Authors and Others. And this show is mainly, of course, about Black authors. We really want to showcase them, and we will allow other groups to come as well, but it's primarily for Black authors to really showcase us to not only the Black community, but also all communities, and to see our intellect in in the arts, especially being book authors. Okay, today our book author guest is, and you tell, I want to make sure you say your name. I don't want to say it incorrectly.
Ammishaddai Grand-Jean.
Okay, and I just want to tell the audience that he had a sermon, came to my church, First MB Church in Athens, Georgia. I recommend anybody to come to that church, whatever race you are. You would definitely, you know, really receive the spirit of the Lord, and it's a great place. The pastor there is Reverend Hart. But this young gentleman, I'm 51, 52, but this young gentleman really electrified the audience. And he has a book that's out, and I definitely immediately bought it. I got a copy. I got his autograph, so I feel very fortunate. Um, so tell us a little bit about yourself, and then of course, yeah, tell us about your book as well a little bit. We'll start there.
Of course. So hello everyone. To all those who are viewing. And thank you again, Mr. Eric, for having me on the show. My name is
Yeah.
Ammishaddai Grand-Jean. I am from Jonesboro, Georgia. My parents were born and raised in the beautiful island of Haiti. I attended the University of Georgia, where I received two bachelors in economics and political science. And then I stayed for another year to get my master's in public administration. But I always had the desire really to be a public speaker, just to encourage people. And I graduated my master's during the pandemic, 2020. And so I would say from about May until December, I was unemployed. But I felt like God commissioned on my heart to say, hey, I need you to write this book. Like there's a message I have for you. I need you to put pen to paper. And so for those 7 months, I was just sitting there and just typing away and just trying to pray for revelation. And I thank God that on December 25th of 2020, I was able to publish a book called Benchwarmer, What to Do When You're on the Bench of Life. And so since then, it's just been an amazing opportunity to encourage young people, all types of people who feel like they're stuck as they're waiting for their purpose and they're waiting to get in the game of life. And so the book just walks them through simple steps that we can all do in order to get closer for our time to come into the game of life.
Wow, that's amazing. And I think you did state where you were born, and where did you grow up in the same area, or where did you grow up? Were you reared or raised, or what? However
Yeah,
you might say
raised in Jonesboro, in the
Okay.
Clayton County area, so Southern Regional Hospital, and then end up just growing elementary school, middle, and high school just right here in Jonesboro and stuff. So proud to be from Clayton County.
Great, great. Okay, and let me go here. That's the other author. There's another channel. Tell me, because I think it's very important. Tell me about your family roots in terms of your father's from that heritage and your mother and heritage, and how did that link into uh American heritage, and then also how it actually linked into to being this newfound writer that has a blazing, new book that's blazing. I read the introduction. I'm gonna get into it, but tell us tell us about that heritage and the importance of that and the connection with the American experience.
Of course, I think growing up as a son of immigrants definitely gives you a unique experience, especially being, I would say, a first generation American. Being born here in the States. And so I think one thing about all immigrants that they can relate with one another is one of persistence. It's one of wanting better and desiring better, but always playing by the same rules like everybody else. And so we all always have the same 24 hours, but we all use it differently. And I think a big thing of how my parents raised me was on values, was on morals and principles. We're not perfect, but it was always, okay, this is the level to achieve. And you pray, you use your faith, but you also put in work, and you also make sure you're consistent every day. I'm working towards that. And so through my parents and just through this Haitian background, I've grown a understanding of persistence, of faith, which is really important. And then third, just loving people as human beings. I was taught that when you go into a school, you treat the principal with the of respect as you would the custodian, because in your eyes they're the same individuals. They perform different duties, but one cannot function without the other. And so I think that you have to also realize that, again, you value everyone's experiences, value everyone's background, and at the same time you're always working for the best of humanity. And so I would say, again, just maybe more a conscientious type of person. And so even as I wrote the book Benchwarmer, I take it from a perspective that just recognizes that everyone has different roots, everyone has different backgrounds, but there are some simple things that we can all do, such as preparation, strategy, being able to work on our attitude, and also fixing our mindset that plays a role into our God-given unique gifts. And so in the book, in the end, I gave a shout out to my Haitian roots and just those who are also immigrants as well, just because of their inspiring story of wanting more, of struggling and overcoming their obstacles. I mean, I'm always blown away by my mom and dad, who English was not their first language at all, but they came to the States, they learned it, and they also went to school. And so my mom would tell me stories about how she's trying to study for a test that's in English, but she doesn't fully know English. So she's like doing double studying, trying to translate to herself. I mean, it's just crazy. And my dad the same way too, so I'm always really grateful for their experiences and stuff. And I just pray that this book can be a testament of their hard work and their faith and their persistence.
Great. And I mean, I guess I hope viewers understand that come from a proud heritage, people of independence that demanded and took their independence. It's definitely a role model for just regular African Americans, and for, I think, also Africans, and for anybody of any race of ethnicity. You guys have a strong heritage. Now, what did they ever shared what their dream and promise was for them coming to America, and what their dream and promise was for you being the first generation American?
Yeah, I would say again for them, my mom, her dream and her desire was always to be a nurse, to be able to assist people in the healthcare field, and so even right now, a place where she, which I always sometimes nudge her at it, to become a doctor, but she says like that's just not her dream or goal. Like she wanted to have that one-on-one contact with patients. And so since Haiti, she's always been around that field. And then coming to the States, she knew that she wanted to continue in that path. And my dad, being multifaceted as a teacher, a professor, a principal, but also as a pastor and minister as well, he always really just cared about people, but always loved education and educating people. And so here in Haiti, he was a principal, a teacher, a minister, and he did the same thing when he came to the States of being a teacher and also really serving as a minister as well. And so I think for both of them, they empowered me to choose my own career. I mean, they laid the foundation, because I think despite their careers being different, it was similar in the sense that it's a service to humanity. I think the portion that they taught me is that compassion of caring about other individuals, of encouraging them, whether you speak to their soul, whether you take care of their physical bodies, or you take care of their minds, or whatever it is. I think that they wanted me to be able to pursue my goal or dreams, whatever that may be, but to remember to be conscientious and compassionate, and to consider that, hey, it's humanity that we're working with. So, yeah.
So did you have any brothers or sisters?
Yeah, I'm the oldest of four.
Okay. Wait, how many brothers, how many sisters?
So it was 3 boys in all. I'm one of the boys, and then there's one sister, and the sister is the last one, so she's the baby out of everybody.
Okay. And is there, and I know everybody wants to know, are there any unique and family found, or even Haitian found sayings that have stuck with you, that has brought you through? And I guess that can be, that we can understand everybody else and really appreciate.
That's a good question. And I should have thought of some. There's a couple that my mom will sometimes say, when we're misbehaving, she says, "Mete glo non divin," which means put some water in wine. So that's just always something that she always says, like if we're, as young boys acting up, running around, being rowdy, put some water in your wine, like, calm down. You got to make sure that you're focused. At the same time, I think she would also give us proverbs of like wisdom too. Remembering, I think there's one proverb that says, a house that has holes in it can fool the sun, but it can't fool the rain. And eventually, it basically
Wow.
means, you can't leave holes in your life or holes in your work and half do something and think that you're going to get far with that. You might be able to fool the sun because the sun is able to pierce through, but nothing happens. But when that rain comes in, that water will find a way into those holes. And so again, it was just a reminder from both of my mom and dad to, do a good, honest work, to do your best, to fulfill that work. And at the same time, to remember, again, goal and stuff. So those are two things that come to my mind right now. There's
Wow.
countless others that sometimes it's hard to always remember.
That
But
might be another book.
yeah, it could be another book too. Yeah, and another one that my dad always like to say is, um, petit tigre c'est tigre, which means a son of a tiger or is a tiger. And so at the end of the day, he's like, yo, if you're God's son, remember who you are. Like, you have him in you. And it was just always that reminder. Again, as I was in school, as I was going through my different parts of life, was to remember that, okay, if God claims me as his son, like I have him in me, and I can be able to be fulfilled in my faith. And so again, just those proverbs is what comes to mind right now. That just always encourage me, would always push me forward, or just remind me, to help guide me as I'm trying to walk on this path.
Great. And you said the first one was that put a little water in the wine.
Yeah, put a little water in your wine.
Okay, I get it. And I think about that. I mean, my, we're not going to talk about the title and thing, but of my first book. But what it's a book about politics.
Mm-hmm.
And in my research, I found that Theodore Roosevelt, I shared this with another author, followed a proverb. And it turned out, as far as we understand through Wikipedia, it was an African proverb.
Mm-hmm.
And you probably heard of like, with a, I'm paraphrasing that with if you have a stick, walk gently or something. It's something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
Turn out that happens to be an African proverb, and from this, as far as they know, Wikipedia said that it's potentially an African proverb, and he actually turned that into his foreign policy.
I didn't talk the big stick policy. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, a saying can really, make a difference in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, do you feel that with your book that your parents were an influence in any kind of way?
Yeah, of course, I would say so. Again, like, because when you're, I think about, wanting to make them proud, but also their own experiences of times when they felt like the bench of life, when my dad was in school to be a minister, in school to be a teacher and a professor, and how at times, he probably was discouraged or doubting himself. I think about my mom, who proudly always reminds me that she went to Hunter College in New York, and at the time's most prestigious program, and how hard that was for her. But she told me times that she wanted to give up hard it was to be able to get that classwork done. And so I think again, taking their stories, taking my stories and my experiences, just other people I know as well, creating a book that just really helps guides people who feel like they're stuck, and that they need that guidance on how to achieve their goals and their God-given dreams.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, so it's an interest. Yeah, definitely. It's kind of taken back a little bit. Um, Let me go here. So, yeah, tell us. Yeah, let's go here. Tell us a little bit about the book. The title definitely is extremely catchy, and it seems like you, from your talking, that is personal, and that you're going through something, and that you're trying to share something with everybody, no matter what race they are, wherever they're from, anywhere in the world. That it's a universal message, and just tell us a little bit what you can. You don't have to tell everything, but just tell us a little bit about the book. And I definitely, I mean, just reading the introduction, I definitely recommend it. But yeah, just kind of share a little.
Of course, of course. So the book is called, again, Benchwarmer, What to Do When You're on the Bench of Life. And as you can even see a little bit, just the cover, it has different people, different race, nationalities, religions, different part, and they're all trying to, again, envision where they see themselves. And so it really just got inspired by me, college, wanting to get my master's and just saying, God, like, I know where I want to be, but I'm not there yet. And I feel frustrated. I feel like I'm on a bench. I feel like I'm stuck. And again, that's when the idea came to me. It's like, okay, like bench warmer, like what do you do when you're on the bench of life? What do you do when you feel like you're stuck? And so again, as later on I graduated, I was able to have time to sit down and to write it. And the book basically is for individuals who feel like, hey, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a businessman or a businesswoman. I want to become a mom or a dad. I want to become a pilot, no matter what you fill in the blank that is. And what age you are, but you feel like you're not there yet. You're struggling to get there, stuck. You're watching other people live out your dreams and live out where you want to be, but you feel like you're just on a bench watching everyone else play. And the book basically guides you on, okay, well, what do you do when you want to be in the game, but you're not in the game yet? And the book first analyzes that, hey, there's a coach that we all answer to, and that coach is God, and he decides who gets in and who gets out. But just because you're not in the game playing, just because you're not in the NBA right now, just because you're not in a surgeon room doing a heart surgery, doesn't mean there aren't things that you can do right now. You wait. And I think a lot of times we as young people, we as human beings waste the current time that we have while we're waiting to be there, as if there's not things we can practice on. And so again, from strategies for one, fixing your attitude, having the right mindset, speaking the right things over your, two, being able to have a strategy that says, okay, well, how do I plan to get in this game? How do I plan to attend this, or to have my own business, or to set my own trend, or to become the best parent, whatever it is that you want to become? What are those steps? And then three, are you practicing that? Are you getting up and speaking in the mirror and going over your lines and practicing for that great play or that movie you want to be a part of? Are you writing down whether you think the ideas suck or they're bad, but you're just writing and practicing your art of writing to write that book or to make whatever script that it is that you want to make? And then also, once you finish practicing it, also knowing, hey, don't go in before your time. Sometimes we like to go for shortcuts and we like to, mess up, thinking that, okay, the fast food way is the best way. But we all know there's a difference between McDonald's and a Thanksgiving meal. No offense to McDonald's, but the quality is definitely better when your mom and your grandma, your aunties make it, because it takes time, it's longer, but it's that good food for your soul. And so I think that's what the book kind of walks it right through it. And finally, when you finally get your chance to get in the game and to finally make it, the book ends with saying, hey, remember what you learned. Because oftentimes we get in the game and we get what we wanted, and then we forget the practice, we forget the ideas, we forget what we said we would do. But I think that one thing that makes notable players like LeBron James or Stephen Curry or Kevin Durant so popular is that not only do they get in the game, but they learn to maintain their physical fitness. That was one thing about Kobe Bryant. I mean, he won his championships and he set his title and everyone knew him as a great person, but ethic stayed consistent. He remembered what he learned and he stayed consistent. And I think a lot of times, we get fooled by the lights of things, we finally get it, but we don't know how to maintain that schedule or how to maintain ourselves in that arena. And so there's a lot for us to learn. And I believe, again, someone who reads this book, no matter what age or what background you're in, you'll learn, okay, hey, I can put these things to practice. And even when I get to my goal, I'll be able to still read this book and remind myself, okay, how do I maintain? And also, how do I properly exit? Like, when is the right time to retire? How do you retire? A lot of times we don't think about our exit strategy because, there's an exit strategy for everybody. It's either God comes or, we and then he wakes us up. And so we have to think about, well, how do you plan to exit that field? What do you want your legacy to be? How do you want to be remembered? And what are you leaving behind for the next generation? And so that's a general summary of the book. And I think that for those who want to buy it and read, they can see, well, how does it all come together? But that's just the main thing. And I don't away for free to people because I say, hey, I want you to get the message more than anything else.
Great. And you, if I'm correct, correct me if I'm wrong. You're a pastor, right?
I'm not a pastor.
You're not? I thought you. Oh man, you feel like a pastor to me. I tell you.
Yeah, I'm not a pastor. I preach. So I'm 24 years old.
Right.
I'm an ordained minister. So like ordained just elder. I'm of the denomination of Seventh-day Adventists, and so I was an ordained elder at 18. But I don't have a church, and
But
I always squeam when people call me pastor, just because it always feels like a heavier title. But my
okay.
dad's a pastor, and again, I respect the profession, and I'm always open to speaking at churches and helping everyone.
Okay, tell us about that journey because I think that connects. I mean, it's definitely I feel spirituality in terms of the book, obviously. Um, but tell us about that journey from being just a lay person going, to being more connected with God than I guess than the normal, just regular Christian. Excuse me. What can you tell us anything about that?
Yeah, I
Because
think everyone, your father could be the Pope, and that's not realistic because he does not marry. But it doesn't matter who your parents are. Um, you have to experience God for yourself. You have to be able to have that personal connection or that personal moment. And I think that's one thing that I had to learn. I mean, my father was a pastor, mom working in the church, just surrounded by that. But it was only until I had my moment, my experience where I hit God head on, that's when that desire, that belief began to grow. And so for me, despite me thinking I was saved and me thinking I knew about God, it really happened when I was applying to college. I decided to really pray about what school I went to because I had a lot of potential. Was in competition to be valedictorian of my class and just having good grades. But again, I had dreams of Harvard and Yale or like the Ivy Leagues, and that was just where I was thinking. And I remember wanting to pray to God about, okay, where do you think I should go? And in a weird way, in church one day, and I felt like I heard God in my head. So not audibly, but just kind of more in my head, like another voice was speaking to me. It says, Ammishaddai, I want you to apply to UGA, the University of Georgia. And I'm like, God, that's kind of crazy. I'm looking for Harvard. UGA is like down here. So I said,
you're right,
and
right.
and he responded to me, there's something there that I have for you that I need you to go to UGA. And so I was confused, didn't really understand. And then again, that week I was looking up, hearing the voice of God. How do you know? How do you know if it's really God speaking to you? And I remember my listening to a sermon that said, God speaks to people who listen to him. So if you ever hear him talk to you, listen and obey. And so the following Sabbath at church, I was listening again. I heard God say, I want you to only apply to you. And the voice said, if you go anywhere else, you will get in, but you'll miss out on what I have for you at UGA. Go to UGA. I said, okay, God. I mean, it was confusing, crazy, stressful, but I decided to go. And then I applied early action. I didn't make it. And I was like, what? Like, you deferred my application? So then I'm telling God, okay, you told me to go to this school. I
Right,
applied, and now they
right.
defer my application. Like, what's going on? My parents are wondering, is everything okay? Because you're talking about Harvard and these Ivy Leagues, and now you're talking about UGA. Like, what's going on? And so it was a hard moment for my faith. It really was a tough time of trying to find my way through this cloud. But I think it was in that cloud that's where God was able to build my faith on trust and belief and obeying Him and just following Him, even though you don't always see the staircase in front of you, like Dr. King said. And so I later on, by the grace of God, finished high school and I graduated as valedictorian. And then I was also able to get into the University of Georgia. But when I came to UJ, I felt like I was there for a different and larger purpose. And so again, I had that humble pie very quickly. So knowing not to belittle anything or any school or institution, but I also learned that it was a larger mission and purpose. And so ever since then, I just always been trying to be prayerful and about the next steps that I do. If it's a job, if it's a book, if it's a relationship, just saying, okay, God, what is it that you want me to gain from this, and what do you want me to give to this? And the University of Georgia was just an amazing experience that I can never compare or wouldn't trade it in. I mean, if I could go back in time and say, well, would you still choose UGA? I still would, because just everything there was just so purposeful. And there's a different feeling where when you are in that sweet spot, when you're in that anointing spot, like when you are right where you're supposed to be, where God says you're supposed to be. I mean, it's just no feeling like it. Not everything doesn't come easy, but you just feel like you have a higher support as you go through different things. I mean, one small experience, I failed a math final exam. I mean, I had to have got like a super bad 30 or 40 something. It was just really bad, but I came out
Wow.
with a B in the class, and that was because God, or I would believe earlier, God said, hey, he's going to be struggling. Let's help him out. So I was able to have other good grades before, and my consistency. And I'll never forget me feeling as if I was a failure and just failed it. My dad prayed with me, and it just turned out. And so again, I just really feel that just being in an environment was just mostly so having that divine favor that was just really with you. So yeah.
Wow. Now, what are your plans for your I guess future book projects?
Yeah, so I haven't thought about that. I know everyone keeps telling me, especially fellow authors, it's like, hey, writing, you're just gonna keep writing and stuff. And so I'm still thinking about the next book, but I do think it has been coming to me a little bit, and I think that I might write the next one about, okay, what do you do when you're in the game now? And so like this first book was about when you're watching others who are where you want to be, but now book I think will mostly be about, okay, now that you're in your profession, you are that doctor, you are that mom, you are that relationship or that business, but what do you do to be successful, and how do you also maintain, but also teaching people that it's larger. I think that's one thing that God's just been showing me, that it's just larger than the success and the titles and the money, because today you could wake up and have a Tesla, today you could wake up and have a mansion. But I think a lot of us have seen quickly how empty that can feel. From people that we can list names: Anthony Bourdain, Kate Spade, a lot of individual celebrities that have more money than us, more influence than us, could have anything at they fingertips, but they suffer human problems like all of us do. And so I think that there has to be more to life than just material things. And so I think it's all about purpose. It's all about our mission that we've each been called to do, whether we realize it or not, and discovering that, fulfilling that, and also being able to help others fulfill theirs.
Great. And I think off camera, and I'll take the hit here in terms of this is a kind of controversial topic. But I had talked to you and mentioned, as you being a minister, that I felt that someone like yourself would be the right person to kind of address, I gotta watch my words, address the latest situation. And I'll just state my side, and I'm not a minister, so I can kind of take an approach to it, but I'm still careful with my words. The latest guy that has emerged on the internet, and last night I saw like 1.5 views, and that's Mr. Kevin Samuels. And let me just say what I want to say about that. He talks about, if you may be familiar, and that I'll let everybody be familiar, talks about relationships between Black women and Black men, and talks mostly to Black women. I guess the controversial part of it, I agree with a lot of things that he says, but I think maybe his tactfulness or approach, it may be what's kind of causing a firestorm. And I kind of was set kind of what I think is going now, because I think I kind of make an analogous to the civil rights movement, where you had Martin Luther King, I won't say Malcolm X, but let's say the student group, SNAC or whatever, SNCC, yeah. Mm-hmm. And you had different other groups that came together to make that movement, successful. I think that Kevin Samuels is trying to do a good service. I put it that way. I want to say another way, but I said it's trying to do a good service, and he's trying to help Black men and Black women. But he has his own approach, which is that may not be necessarily viewed as a Christian approach, but he has his own approach to it, and it works in some respects, but in some respects, it's like I said, it's a tough way to go about it. And I kind of would say, like, it's kind of like you can say, like, let's say if you had a person and you're trying to get them to eat. I'm gonna make an example. And no, I don't want to eat. No, I don't. I don't like that food. I don't like, or whatever. and his approach is kind of like just pushing them to the table and making them eat. But I think that the approach can be more of, look, it may not be the best table, it may not be the best situation, but go ahead and you need to eat to live. And if you dress people in a certain fashion, they can maybe take the message. So kind of it's just saying, telling men, be short about it, a little bit more short about it, is that telling men that prepare yourself, make yourself marketable in terms of following your purpose. I think this is what he's trying to say. Follow your purpose, get your act together, get yourself in a good position to be suitable for relationship. And I think it's telling the women that you are, you're successful in our society, but don't ask for things that are kind of like out of range. And I would say, for example, let's say maybe a requirement of a woman may be, well, I want a man that's nobody under 6'6". I can't talk to any man that's that's not as tall as 6'6", and there's that's a very slim. Or men that make at least $500,000. If you're not making $500,000 a year, keep walking. So I guess he's trying to tell the women to make your expectations a little bit more reasonable. And yeah, you're going on, you're being successful, but make your expectation a little bit more reasonable, and telling the men pretty much to prepare yourself and get yourself, be the best example of yourself, the best you that you can be, and that they kind of can meet midway, and then they can go on and be successful. So I kind of feel like somebody like yourself would be ideal to, from a biblical standpoint, how to make those two, see the value. As you, like, I come from a mother and father family, you come from mother father family, the importance first and foremost of coming together in the institution of family, and raising the next generation properly and doing it the right way, so that we can have strong families and can be productive in America or anywhere in the world that we may go as Black Americans. So I feel like his approach may be a certain way, but I think somebody like yourself that can be way more tactful can make the two sides understand better and get them in the right approach. Mm-hmm. That's how I would say it.
I got you. Yeah, to be honest, I don't know too much about Samuels. I've seen different clips of him and stuff like that, so I can't say I've done my research enough to fully know so much about him to fully comment about it. But I do feel that people do take direction or advice or wisdom differently. Right. I think that there is no standardization for everyone, and I think some people they might disagree with it, but some people probably needed a rod as discipline, like they need their parents to teach them and correct them in that way. Other children, they don't respond well at all to that. They respond well by talking to them or different unique techniques. And I think that, we see that come to fruition when we're all adults, that we don't all like the same types of food. We don't all like the same type of music. It's just different advice, different feelings, communicate differently to us. And so I think that for him, while he could be a controversial figure, some people like him. Some people like being told in a direct manner what they need to do and stuff. And even though they don't dislike him or they disagree with him, they kind of like having someone who kind of challenges them back. While others prefer someone like maybe Steve Harvey, or someone prefer a comedian. Like, everyone has a different taste in their cup of tea. And so I think that, bringing it to a biblical, Jesus or the Bible had different prophets, and I believe that God inspired all of them, but they all had different personalities. Ezekiel and Daniel weren't the same people. Samson and Joseph weren't the same people. David and Isaiah weren't the same people, had different personalities. But I think that God was intentional, knowing that, okay, I know I can give this message to this person and he can best reach these people, his personality of how he talks or how he comes at it. And so you can imagine someone like Jonah, why God chose him to speak to Nineveh. Because I personally believe, in my fictitious imagination, that Jonah was not coming and talking like Joel Osteen to the Ninevites. He wasn't saying,
Right.
oh, 3 days, God's gonna destroy you. No, he was upset already. He wanted God to destroy them. So he came up and said, you're sinners. You guys are about to die. Peace. You know, he kept it simple and walked through. The Bible says that it was a long day's journey, but he did that journey quickly. Like he had wasted no time and gave that message that way. But I think, again, God knew that he was the right vessel to preach, because why? The whole Nineveh converted and then, you know, turn away from their wickedness. It's because God sent the right person for that job. And so I think even us, as we look at people like Kevin Samuels, even if we look retroactively at a Malcolm and a Martin or James Baldwin, these different types of Black leaders and influencers, Nikki Giovanni, Oprah, like all these different women and men who were different, they all had a different style. And I think it's just, again, God moving in them and through them to attract different crowds. And so again, that's why I've always learned I learned two things. One, don't criticize someone else's style or approach, because you know, God gave him that personality in a way. And if it speaks to people, even if it might be a few people, well, that's how it speaks, as long as it's not promoting hate or, you know, destroying people or etc. Like, that's how that person is made. But two, don't belittle my own approach. I don't have to be like TD Jakes and be screaming all the time. I don't have to be like a Joel Osteen. I can be Ammishaddai. And I think we got to focus on being who we are, who God created us to be, and using that talent, that gift, that speech, that song, that intelligence, that pen, whatever it is that you have, in that unique way, and just being confident knowing that the people you're supposed to influence, even if it's just 10 people, you don't know if one of those 10 is going to become the next whatever that is, and how God has given you the opportunity to be a person who can talk and influence that person, you know. And so that's what I would say. But I know that everyone has their different opinions and their different approaches on how they motivate people, how they bring people. But I do think that there is a right way. And the Bible says there's a way that appears right. And I think we should always strive to go for the actual right way. And that's just through prayer. That's just through being able to hear God's voice and finding out, okay, how can we actually, you know, pursue the right path and stuff.
Great. Yeah, I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I would say that definitely, if you have some time, review, you know, check out him more, see what the controversy is all about. I think right now at this point, he's got 1.5. He's the biggest person in the red pill market right now. So usually when people are successful, even though their approach may be a certain way, they're going to continue down that path. And
Very
that's
true.
who he is. Yeah, but I think somebody like yourself, I definitely recommend just review, get a real good understanding of the size of it. But I think somebody like yourself, your Christian background, could make some headway and could really change some minds and really help our community, because it seems like for him to have such a big following, even though his approach, there's definitely something that's enormously, and from a colossal standpoint, that's broken. It's almost like a civil war between Black men and Black women. But these women are coming to him, and I personally, you know, love him for what he's doing, but I think other people can come another way that can help, like you said, in their own way. And we definitely need not just a philosophy that may be secular to solve the problem, that somewhat solves the problem, but we need a godly approach that will really solve the problem and help our community. So that's what I'm talking about. Definitely review him, I recommend, so you have a clear understanding of, and I hope that I was able to lay out kind of, and I was being very careful in what I felt about it, but I want you to see it. You'll see it another way. I mean, you'll see it not in the sugarcoat way that I put it, but and maybe it might inspire you to hopefully to give a biblical answer, because we're in desperate need, I think, in the United States, and it would go a big way to really mending the fences between the genders, especially in the Black community, and put us on the right path. So I'm just saying that. But we'll go on past that. I just wanted to bring that even on air to your attention as well. And let me ask you this: what as writing the book, what did you learn in general? And then secondly, what did you learn about yourself in writing your book?
So I learned one thing about this book, and I even for myself challenged myself to always read it. Not because I wrote it, but just because I feel like it was a message that God gave to me, and is actually for me before other people. You know, I don't want to be a bench warmer in the sense of you just kind of help other people, but not able to help yourself. And I think that I had to, the more and more I go through life, I realize how relatable this book is to me, of feeling stuck, of feeling like I'm on the bench. And so I don't write this as a person, I have it all together, or I know what to do, I'm successful. Not at all. I'm still on the bench. I'm still struggling and learning, how do I maneuver? What is the best thing? And then two, I think that I've discovered a love for writing, just a love of being able to be, you know, again, used by God, just be able to put your thoughts in papers. And so one thing that's unique about this book is just, again, I try to keep it real and just, you know, relatable and just normal, of letting you know my thoughts or how I'm feeling, or just different embarrassing life moments, or different near life death experiences. But it's just about how these small principles that we don't really, you know, that we take for granted, can really play a role into what we do. And so that's just one thing I've just been grateful for. And so it's just my personal reference that I just keep reading, and I try to keep understanding on how to maneuver through certain things. And at the same time, also enjoyed the process of putting it together. So I published it through my LLC, agjspeaks and stuff. And so doing the whole process of writing the book, finding someone to design it, finding someone to edit it, and finding someone to put it together. I mean, it was a whole process, but you know, I would say I'm better for it. And so now next time I know what to do, just repeat, you know, and able to produce it out. And so, but I also love producing good content. You know, I think one thing about the book that I enjoyed the most was that people's reviews, you know, they read it and they would tell me their stories. They would tell me that of their opinions, and how it helped them in their unique situations, or how much they can relate to it. And I think that that's what we all want as authors. I mean, selling 1 million copies would be nice, but I think the bigger glory is someone being able to be, hey, really shifted my mindset, or this is what I exactly needed. And if that's just one person, then you know, you did what you're supposed to do. And so I'm really grateful for that. And so I think that's where that love comes from, and that's where that bug comes from, of wanting to write and to be able to give stuff that, you know, can genuinely help people. It's like medicine that you're trying to give away, and because you know it can really help people spiritually, emotionally, and mentally.
Great. And I'll just say this, and we were talking also off screen, I think, one time, talking about the marketing. I'll just put this stat out. I mean, this, well, not stat, well, this example out. Let's say you sell your book for $20 on Amazon, and they take $5 for to reproduce it, $5 for marketing it, so that leaves you a profit of $10. So if you sell only five, we're not talking about 1 million, 5,000 copies. If I'm correct, I think you just made $50,000.
Yeah, I think so. And that's right.
If you sell 10,000, we only saying 10,000, not 1 million, 10,000 copies at $10 a profit, you just made $100,000.
Mm.
So there's money in the business. The big issue is, from the money standpoint, is getting it to the intended readers, to the people that would purchase it. So I'll go here. I'm looking at and watching is book marketing companies that will get it in front of the readers that would have an interest, you know, in the material. And there's also some that are in the UK and Australia, and you know that the UK likes to read. So if you have to pay a little something, but it may benefit, because remember, you only have to sell $5,000 or $10,000, 10,000 copies, and you're making $50,000 to $100,000. And the thing that they always say too is that continuously in a series writing a book, continuously writing more books, it will sell that a first book, will sell the book that you're selling currently, and then people will like, oh, I like that. Oh, I want to get his first book. You see what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, like, say if it's your third book and somebody buys the third book, oh, does this guy have any more material? So then, and I talked to an author that's written several books, and she told me just before I talked to you that that happened, that she actually sold another book, and then the people were trying to find earlier material from it. So, and that's a known fact that once you write more books, people are gonna would go back to earlier material. So there's the whole thing. I think is getting the right marketing effort that will get it in front of the intended or targeted readers, and that's really the key. It's not, you don't have to sell a million books to do well, or you maybe do other things, but if you make $50,000 or $100,000 off of 10,000 books, I mean, that's making more money than some people make on their 9 to 5s, and that's just one income source. I mean, I get a check every month for my book, so it can make money. It can make money. So I don't want people to think that you can't make money. I think that you have to have good content and try to get your marketing strategy that a model that works. And let me ask you this: what are your feelings in terms of, and I asked the other person as well, self-publishing versus traditional publishing? What are your views, and who's winning at this particular time and point?
Yeah, I think traditional publishing had a monopoly on the market before the .com boom, and really before social media. But I think that once the giants of social media of Twitter and Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and all these others were born, it kind of weakened the monopoly hold that these traditional publishing companies have had. And so it's very true to be able to, you have a chance of being able to pitch yourself to that market rather than having, a publisher, Penguin. Now, it always would be cool, I think, on a name recognition, always published by a Penguin publisher or Moody's or all these other names. At the same time, you realize, okay, there is a more money to be made, and you're able to control that market by being able to just sell. And so you do all of the upfront costs, and then you're able to benefit from all the profits. And so for me, I don't have to split the profits with no one because I published it myself and I paid through it myself. But the downside is that you are in a competing market, and so I'm selling to my friends and church friends and families and community members. And so I've been fortunate, by the grace of God, to sell about 300 copies, just about, which I'm grateful for, because a lot of authors, probably don't get to sell as much. And so you have to work twice as hard, though. You don't get that name recognition. It's like, okay, you have to introduce yourself constantly to people and get in front of people's face and being able to tell them why this book is important and how it can bless and help them. So I think at the end of the day, pray about it. As I always tell people, it's up to you. But I do feel like there is a larger benefit of self-publishing, because just the world has changed. That you can record yourself with your phone. You can be able to advertise yourself. You can be able to invest your own money and your own dollars in marketing yourself, and just being able to kind of reach, a place where you're able to hit green. And so I think, by the grace of God, I'm hitting that green mark of covering my expenses for my book, and now I'm getting residual profit.
Right. And I'm not even doing anything now, and I'm getting getting income. But I the author before you, because it connects, she said that she was in a traditional deal, and something happened to where they stopped marketing her book.
Yeah.
And she had another book that she actually did self-publishing. So she went back and to the website of the publisher and found out other people. There was only, like, I think, really pushing from what I'm extrapolating what she said, that there was only one. It appeared to be that there was only one author that they were pushing out of that company. So she told him that she was going to get a lawyer, and she got her rights back, and she feels like she's more successful that way. And again, like you said, it cuts into your profit. The situation is that, can you get your book to your targeted readers? That's really the only, once you created the product, once you got the editor involved and you got it up on platforms, how do I get it to the targeted market? If I can sell 20,000 a year, hey, that's $200,000 I just made.
Mhm.
So that is really what the issue is trying to get it. And I do recommend, I think, and what I'm seeing is book marketing companies check those out for America, for the UK, for Australia.
Mhm.
Have to pay a little bit, but I think it helps. And I think another thing I'm looking at is course interviews and also book clubs. So I think
Yeah.
there's ways that you can do it. And then again, like I said, you're making all of the profit. So I mean, hope the viewers are hearing that, and we're sharing this information and making people aware of it. Now, what would you recommend if your brother or sister, I put it this way, a younger person, that is so cool. You're a book author. You know what I mean? I hate to say it. Now watch this. When you pass away and you're on your tombstone, you're always a book author. That is so cool. So, but I mean, outside of that, let me stop. But if younger people really got inspired by you and they wanted to share stories, what would you recommend them in terms of being an author? Is it cool? Is it what is the whole deal behind being an author? But now we're talking to the younger people.
Yeah, I think that again, when you write a book, um, I think you're able to be in a place that you get to leave behind your thoughts, your words, your pain, your struggles, your feelings for the world to have. Like it's forever there. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's something that's just very powerful and just something I'm just really, grateful to have is just to be able to say, okay, well, I know that my grandkids can be able to know what was in their grandfather's mind. My dad is also an author as well, and he's written two books actually. And so
Okay.
again, it's like being able to just have something that able to kind of look into his see like what type of person he is and his thoughts and his experiences. And so for all young people, just do it. It's like the Nike, you hear it, just do it. Don't say, I don't know if I have anything good to say. I don't know if people will like it. I think that was one of my biggest fears of publishing a book, was wondering if people would actually like it or if people would actually buy it. And of course, I've just been surprised over like people actually will buy it. People actually will read it, and you'll find a lot of positive reviews. And so I haven't had a negative view yet. I think the only negative view is like, man, I wish you wrote more. And I think I just kind of gave a little bit, just touching on everything. And so I think that it definitely encouraged me. It was that, okay, we did this one time, we can do it again. And so don't doubt yourself, believe in your abilities, believe in that message that is burning in your heart that you feel so impassioned to do, and follow it.
Absolutely. Now let me ask you this, because uh, everybody's different. What is your process in terms of writing in general, and what's your process, and what is you feel that is your normal process in writing a book? One lady told me that she kind of makes a semi outline, and then all of a sudden she'll write, and then she'll come back and change. Another person, and the husband's over here, the last interview, and are you listening to me? She said, no, I'm not listening to you. So, I mean, what is
Yeah.
your process?
So I would say when the book idea came to me, at first I thought it was a sermon, and so I wrote the title, and then I just thought about the subsection. So I thought about the chapters, like, okay, what do I want people to get or to learn? And so I wrote down the chapters, and it was about 7 in total. And then that's when I was able to go back and to write. And so the way my process was, again, everyone's different. Knew, okay, first is fix your attitude. And so I just kind of wrote in a way of, okay, what do I want people to know about the attitude? Typically starting off in an end, then leading people into like the meat. And then you end off with, okay, what's the reflections? How do we fix this? How do we do that? And so it's just sometimes, being able to start with the Bible verse or a quote from somebody. And so inside my book, I have quotes from Oprah, LeBron James, Nipsey Hussle, Lao Tzu, which is like the green tea person. I think everyone, you'd be surprised on who's in it, but they always had some interesting points or different points of views they're able to bring in. And so once on the chapter titles. I just sat there and read it. And so I would set time aside, but I would always write when I felt inspired. And I know that might be different for other people because some people say you should write all the time. I agree. But I feel like when I'm in that writing mood or just like, oh, I already have something to say, and when I'm in it, I'm just in that zone. And so I just have it a chapter at a time, and I would have the chapter and I would just be able to write and say, okay, what is everything I want to say in this chapter? Then I would go back once I'm done and reorganize it into that certain type of way. And so again, I had a great editor who was able to see what I wanted to say and just help me put it in the right words and format that when I read the book, I loved it because it just read flawlessly, it read smoothly. Like I felt like everything kind of came together. And so as they say, a general advice is just write first, then edit and bleed through it. But you want to make sure that you've poured everything in your mind. And so when I came to the final version of the book, there was nothing that I said, oh, I wish I talked about this more, because I felt like I added everything that I knew what I wanted. But then of course, over time, I'm like, oh, I could add this, I could add that. And that's when the second book comes in mind. And so again, don't be afraid of like not having it all together, but just write what you feel is burning in your heart, write it down, and then to edit from there.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think about? I keep too much longer, but what do you think about the film industry and books? What are you and are you in favor of it? Do you see a possibility with your book? I mean, you have a fascinating title. What are your thoughts there?
Never imagined my book would be a movie or a show or anything. If it happens, cool.
It could happen.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, but I think that you're right. That sometimes we've had a lot of great movies that birthed out of books. I mean, The Lion, the Narnia, and just different types of books. But I think, of course, sometimes there is that divide where people feel, well, the book was better than the actual movie and stuff. And I think it's again,
that's a good problem.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yes.
That's a really good problem to have, to point people back to the book. And so I think it just shows you the internal part of just, the author trying to express his or her ideas and vision and process. And then the movie seeing someone else express theirs and trying to re-express that, so I don't think you'll ever have something that just follows to the T or is just so perfectly aligned and stuff. But I do think that movies and films and shows are able to point people back to the original source. And so not to get spiritual, but I feel like it's the same thing with us as Christians, that, we're only doing our best to reflect what God has given to us, but we got to point you back to the source. Like, you're right, the book is better and the book is God. The source is better. And I think that's what the source does. I mean, when you watch different movies or biographies or biopics, all of them, you watch it, you love the documentary, you love the movie, but you're like, man, I want to know, where's the source? Like, what is it really like? And that's when you're able to point back to the book to be able to read it. And so I think, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind at all, but I think that, again, it's just a great depiction of just being able to reach a larger amount of people and be able to give them some tidbits into about the book and then hooking them to be able to go back and read the original book.
One more question and one or two things, and then that's it. And then, of course, another time, I mean, the next book or whatever, another time. What do you think about auto books in terms of, especially like, say, maybe in the future, you may write a children's book, and then the lady was talking, the other author was talking about it. She reads to the elderly, and, like maybe they're in a assisted living or whatever, and it may have the medical issues. So if they can just hear it, the message read to them, that may be of great service to them. What are your thoughts on auto books?
Yeah, so I to record Audible, and so the book is on Audible. It can be listened to as well, and I think like audiobooks are definitely effective, because at least when I read my book, I was able to put more emotion, more flavor, be able to emphasize certain parts and to be able to just make it feel alive. And so someone told me who recently listened to it, felt as if I was talking to them directly, and that, I was in the car with them and being able to break down these ideas, and it really just kind of spoke more to their heart. So, yeah.
Okay. So I guess in closing, I mean, it was really exciting. It was amazing. It really was. I really enjoyed it. Enjoying it and enjoyed it. So what I want to say, I definitely just want to point out, blown away, of course, by the book so far, and blown away by those sayings. That's what's hit me, those sayings of your parents. So I kind of just see a book, fascinating book there, somewhere growing up from immigrant parents and also hearing their sayings and learning from, I see a book there. I can't do that because roots are here completely. So, but I think it's no matter what race, that would be an interesting book. Um, and I do think that you are the person potentially to the response for Kevin Samuel. So I would say go back and listen and see if it's not for you, it's not. If it is, I think that you can do a great service to our community. And I think it would the larger communities, all with the feminist movement and things, put it in the perspective of the Bible and a respectful fashion and relationships. I think it would do a great service. But you have to see if God is, if it's right, if it's right in terms of that. So basically, let's what I want to do is just last thing here is just go ahead and allow you to say whatever you want to say to the public. I guess talk more about the book, anything else that you want to talk about, and then definitely at the end, I would recommend mention the ways that they can get the book, and if they want to contact you and ask you a question or whatever, all of that. But definitely promote right now the book again. Okay.
Of course. So again, thank you, Mr. Eric, for having me. Yeah. And it's been a pleasure to speaking to this unique audience as well. I believe a great author is also accessible to people, and so I really enjoy talking to fans and being able to hear their thoughts and their opinions, and it really helps with creating future content. And so I always tell people they can find me at agjspeaks at gmail.com. The book is on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Audible, Google Play Books, and even I think a book company in Canada as well for ebooks. So you can find the book anywhere. Always interested in hearing that. And again, I think the book, my biggest hope is that people will just be inspired, but not just like, oh, that feels good and that dies with them. But some like, you know what, they take the actual nuggets and they follow through and they really do believe and work towards their goals. Because I feel like there's no greater feeling than knowing that you played a role, whether small, into helping someone achieve their God-given gifts and abilities, because you just don't know what's inside of people. And so when I wrote the book, I believed I was talking to doctors and movie producers and, great and people who are going to be politicians and businessmen, people who are going to, no matter how unique it is, a fisherman or fisherwoman or a beekeeper, it doesn't matter. I think we all enjoy being in that sweet spot. And so the book is really written just to encourage you to reach that sweet spot, but telling you what you do as you're working towards that pinnacle moment of your life, that pinnacle moment where you feel where I want to be. And it's different for everyone. So I think another part I talk about is just don't compare, because the comparison is truly the thief of joy. And so you got to just be focused on your own lane, be happy to be where you are, and to continue to make strides every day to work towards that. And so the book can be found anywhere. You can always reach out to me by email. I do respond. I don't have a secretary. I'll respond to you myself and just, let you know my thoughts and be able to talk as well. And I would also love to be able to share it to you and your audience, or if you have any other event. But again, thank you again, Mr. Eric. And to all those who are thinking about writing a book, write the book, just do it and worry about the rest later. And then two, just remember that, hey, there's inside of you, you got to share it with the world, because you don't want to die with anything left in you. You want to die empty in the sense that you left it all there and you put it all out there. So, yeah.
Just tell us one more time, because it got broken up a little bit. Just the contact information and where to find it one more time.
Yeah, so you can find the book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Google Play Books, Audible, on all different types of platforms. And you can email me. I left my email and my contact information in the back of the book. But you can email me at agjspeaks with an S at the end at gmail.com for any questions, or just if you want to just talk about, always down.
Okay. And when we come off here, you can just email when you have a chance. If you can do it before Monday, it'd be great. Just email the contact information and I'll put it in thing for everybody so they can go straight to the book or can contact you and stuff.
Okay.
Okay, and the last thing I would just say, just be strong. To everybody out there, you definitely have a role model here. Somebody is very impressive, and somebody is very strong black male, positive, great personality, and definitely talented, gifted, and educated. So that's it. So read, buy his book, and we'll talk to you next time. This is Black Black authors and others. Thank you.